Is there
So
oh, sorry. Just curious how long these run for typically.
let me do the introduction and then I'll
Sorry, go
jump
ahead.
in. That's okay. Hi everybody. This is Christy Peterson with Vintage Books, and we're here for Vintage Books Live with Breena Bard tonight. And Breena was just asking, so I think that's a good thing to address. So most of the time we've been these interviews have been lasting 35, 40 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, but it just depends on whether we get going talking or not. So
Good. All right.
welcome everybody. So we're really glad to have you here. Tonight we're talking with, like I said, Breena Bard. Breena is the author most recently of the graphic novel Wildfire, which just came out last week.
Yeah, last
We're
Tuesday.
going to chat about that, and we'll chat about graphic novels and the making thereof and all that good stuff. And if you are happen to be with us live, you can throw questions in the chat. I'm just adjusting my windows here so I can see chat. And if not, you are more than welcome, if you're watching the replay after, you're more than welcome to throw a question in the questions or comments boxes for each of the videos. I'm a little slower at getting caught up with those, but I do see them, so be sure to ask anything that you would like to ask. Breena, I'm going to start by asking, just because of the unique topic that this is about, can you just kind of start, tell the story of a little bit about the book, and then how that particular topic, like how did you come to be tackling that topic in graphic novel form?
Sure. Yeah. So Wildfire, it's a graphic novel for middle grade, so 8 to 12 to 14-ish, I think is kind of what they put on there. And it's the story of Juliana, who lives in rural Oregon at the start of the book. Her and her family just have a kind of a nice quiet life there. And then early on in the first 20 pages or so, a wildfire is started by some shenanigans, some kids.
Seems like our connection tonight. So
is it me or? Hey.
Hi there. It might be on my end, but we'll see how we do.
Yeah, my husband works out of the basement, so I think it shouldn't be a basement issue, but if
I've been having some issues, and I had my husband check it earlier today, and it seemed we might be we had a couple of people in chat. Hopefully they're still there. Yeah, they're still there. So I let them know that we were having some issues. So we can just go ahead and yay. So we are back. Oh no, there we go. Oh, sorry. And so I think the last thing I heard was that she was living in rural Oregon, and then that's
Yep. And her and her family have kind of a nice quiet life on farm-ish land there. And she's part of her 4-H club, and she's just kind of unconcerned by too much. And then in the first 20 pages or so, a lot happens. There's some kids who are playing with fireworks, even though there's a burn ban, and they do start a wildfire, and it just changes her family's life dramatically. So they lose their home and they have to move to Portland. And again, this is all happening in the first 20 pages. So it's not too spoilery, but and I guess the reason why I wanted to tell this story, I wasn't really thinking too much about writing about climate change or writing about wildfires. My last book had been a also a kid's graphic novel, but more of a mystery adventure kind of story. That one was Trespassers. And I was planning to just write another one similar, even maybe a sequel or something in that same vein. And then 2020 happened, and everything, every trajectory we had just kind of ground to a halt.
Yeah.
And in the middle of that, there was the week here in, Portland, Vancouver area and beyond, where the wildfire smoke had become so intense that we actually had to stay inside for a week. And we were taping our doors and windows, and it was just really unnerving and really, so I think during that week I had a call with my editor, and she kind of pitched the idea of doing a story about the wildfires, and it felt like the right story at the time. So
your previous books are also middle grade?
Yes. So I had, like I said, Trespassers was a graphic novel, a middle grade graphic novel. And then I have a couple self-published books before that, which are more, I would consider like all ages, not specific.
Yeah.
So.
And for those of you who, I think probably most people watching are from the Portland and Vancouver metro area, but for those of you who are not, Oregon went through a unique weather event in September of 2020 that everything got really dry and the wind was really high, and it sparked some fires all over the region. And so everything kind of literally blew up over one weekend, and it was scary. But it's a scary topic. And I thought that was the other thing that I was very curious how you thought about as you're thinking about writing this book, as you're in the process of writing this book, as you're editing. How did you think about presenting a topic that was hard to middle graders, which we say middle grade and we think middle school, but it really is sort of low, upper elementary,
right?
So.
Yeah, I think I mean one way that I tried to keep the kids in mind was like I said, a lot of that action happens early on, and it happens quickly. And we're not dwelling too long on the trauma of the actual incident. And I think even like we never see their house on fire, we see the aftermath, and we see she has some kind of PTSD like flashbacks at different parts in the book, but we never see that loss happening. And then the rest of, I'd say the bulk of the book is really more about her new life and her finding her way forward. And so I think some of it was that. And then I also wanted to just include a lot of fun, a lot of silly jokes and just young kids having fun. And I'm sure if I asked, I have an 8-year-old, and his favorite things are probably just the weird jokes that I've thrown in. And
no, I was real curious how that experience was for you, because looking through it, I felt like the balance was really well done. And that's hard, that's hard to say, how do we tackle this really, really serious, kind of horrible, scary thing, and talk about it with a fourth grader or whatever. And so sort of expanding on that same sort of thought line, you deal a lot with, of course, you said the bulk of the book is her dealing with the aftermath of all this and sort of dealing with the grief and loss and coming to terms with it. And I'm curious how you thought about balancing that, being angry at a specific person, because, and I think you say this in the flap copy, so it's not giving too much away to say the fire turns out to have been caused by someone that she knew or adjacent, they were in the group of people that started it.
But you also
there's also a lot of discussion of climate change and how that's contributing. And I'm curious, like the thought process behind showing her coming to terms with, yes, this person is to blame, but also there's other things that are bigger than that. And
right. Yeah, I mean, there's a line that Juliana's dad says in one of the early scenes where she's kind of pushing back. He suggests like, well, we can't, we have to look at the bigger picture and climate change. And she's like, yeah, but we know who did it. And we know, why can't we just blame this one kid or this group of kids? And her dad says, I'll paraphrase my own character. He says something like, two things can both be true. And that's something I've had to learn in my life at some point. And I think that's really something that I wanted to pull through the whole book, was just this idea that, someone can a very specific person could be involved in igniting the fire, or, any number of different mistakes. And yet, like, if the situation was different and there wasn't the dry conditions that we've been kind of building over, the last few decades, and it's just they're intertwined. And I think it was important for me to show that.
Yeah, and the complexities and all of that. Yeah, no, I thought that was, I mean, at the risk of just sort of fangirling on you, I mean, I thought that struck me as I was going through it, is that there is those nuances. And kids, I guess what struck me is, I appreciate when authors respect the fact that kids can take that nuance on, and that they don't have, it doesn't have to be dumbed down for them, that they can grapple with those same types of things that the adults are grappling with.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because I really try to treat young readers as, they're very intelligent and they're very clever, and they can hold a lot more, and unfortunately they will have to hold a lot more, but just I think there's no point in dumbing it down. I mean, my philosophy anyway. So
no, I totally agree. And I think I see a lot of that being done better, I think, than maybe we have in the past, but it's just nice. I'm curious about your process. It's been fun because I've gotten to talk to several people who work on graphic novels. So I've been this question I've asked other people just to kind of see, as we go along, how people's processes are different. When you're working on a graphic novel and you're playing around with ideas and that kind of thing, what comes first for you? Do you sit down and like doodle out pictures and kind of plan it that way, or do you write story down, plan that from that angle, or how does it work?
Well, it's a little bit different working with a publisher, because I did in this, usually it would just start in a sketchbook, I think, and in this case I was pitching ideas, so it was small paragraphs or even just a couple sentences of like what I was thinking, but either way, when I know what project I'm going to start on, I usually grab one of these, just a black bound sketchbook, and I don't know if we'll be able to see it on here or not, but the first thing I do, I've tried to cut this stage out, and it just feels really important to me, is this, you won't be able to, I don't know if that shows up at all.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
But anyway, it's just a really loose sketch writing. So there's the only, a character might just be like a circle and some shoulders and maybe the gesture of a facial expression. And then a lot of just the idea for me is just to get every idea out of my head, and let the story just kind of come out, and knowing that it's not the final story. I love the Stephen King quote, to write with the door closed and edit with the door open, I think it goes. And my door is closed and I'm just putting it all out there. And I don't even show that to my editor, because for one thing, I don't think it's very legible. And it's just like, it's not the story yet. So the next thing I do is I'll go back through that and do basically screenplay format style script.
Okay.
And that's
Yeah.
where I'm
Yeah.
pulling out the things that I think worked, and the dialogue, a lot of dialogue comes out in that stage. And just kind of some like stage instructions because since I'm the author and illustrator,
Right.
but I still think I need to give my future self some direction. And my editor specifically. So then I'll send the script over and get, feedback on that. And let's see what's after that. Then I kind of jump into a storyboarding phase, which is much more tightened up than the sketchbook, but still pretty loose, knowing that I might have to scrap whole parts of it, or I might need to move things around. So these aren't short. Like, I think this book is 270 pages or something.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's a full on.
Yeah. So any chance I can get to like streamline things, I jump at. So I've been doing at this point, from the script on, I've started working all digitally. And then I'll take the storyboards, we'll do edits on that, and then I can draw the pencils right on top of that, and then the inks on top of that. And I'm working on an iPad Pro at that point. So that's kind of it. And then this time
I love that it's so different for different people. I think that's what's
I know.
Asking the same question.
Sure.
For different people is that, I talked to Carrie Lynn Wilson a few weeks ago, and for her it was like, no, I have to be drawing
from the beginning
at the same time as I'm writing the script, because for her, like, she can't get the script out unless the pictures are coming out too. And so it's just fascinating.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yep.
And I noticed, this is actually just a technical process question, because as a writer, I don't have to worry about any of the pictures. And so that's not entirely true, because I do think about what the images are going to be, but my involvement is a lot lighter. And so I noticed that you thank in the acknowledgement, you thank Andrea Ball for bringing color to the book. And so I realized there's a process there that I'm not aware of. So I'm really curious, like, you draw, you've got your sketches, and then those go to pencil drawings, and then those go to the final drawing. How does the process work from that point on?
Yeah, that would be the last step in the creative process. And with my debut book, I did color the book myself. So there too, I kind of know exactly what I'm looking for, but I'm not a colorist. So that took me, it was just a lot. Yeah, it's just not my skill set. But so Andrea Bell came in and did the color for this book, which was amazing. And she's incredible. And it really, there's nothing like turning in inks and then seeing them colored. And then, but as far as we didn't have really much communication during the process. She just kind of got to do her thing, but I definitely sent color samples. And the funniest like mix up was I would give I would specify certain important details, like, well, this character has red hair or whatever, and I never said the color of the cat. And so the cat, not that the cat is a major character, but like it makes many appearances in the background. And so the cat, Andrea colored the cat gray, which is super cute. And I was like, for some reason I was thinking it was an orange cat, but like a gray cat is super cute. Like that's fine with me, until I realized the reason I thought it was an orange cat is because I had already turned in the cover art with an orange kitty. And I asked my publisher, like, could we just change the cat on the cover? And they're like, well, it's already been sent out to, like, it's in the metadata, so we can't really easily. So I went back and changed the color of the cat, but it's just, that's my, there's going to be stuff like that anytime you're working.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So what's the process of adding color? Like, how is that? I'm trying to think of an intelligent way to word the question, but I don't know enough to word it intelligently. Like, I guess help me understand how that's a different so you're
state.
drawing, and I understand that's going to be like, like it's not a pencil, but you're drawing with a
Right.
pencil instrument kind of an idea. And then the coloring, I've seen that elsewhere in graphic novels.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will be the colors themselves.
Mhm.
What skill set is different for doing that piece versus drawing the images?
Yeah, I mean, so when I did it myself, I just kind of, you know, hacked my way through it and did what I had to do to get it done. And so I think if you asked an actual, professional colorist, their process is very different. And I think one thing, again, this isn't how I did it, but I think they actually go through and like pick each, so they'll have the black and white line art, but then they will maybe they'll fill every character's, they'll just select that area and fill it in green, or like they'll just put a color in it. And then after they've got every section like parceled off, they can go back in and actually add the real colors. I could be completely wrong about that.
Yeah.
But it's much more. And then she did a lot with like texture, and like I said, I was blown away when I got to see it. Or like gradients, in the sky. Really important to be able to see so there's a lot to it. And I would love to learn more about it someday.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating to me that the things that you go into creating something that you don't really think about, because you think, oh, well, it's just all together one thing, but it really isn't. The drawings are different than the actually placing the color, and you're not, because you're placing color digitally, you're not like drawing it in
exactly. You can
like you would have,
which can be quicker in some ways. And then if you don't have the line closed, it might
I was gonna say, and then it could be really bad.
But and then there's artists that use watercolor still and get a very organic look that way. And
so at that point, do they take the pages off and like actually hand color them, or is that an effect in the
well, there are watercolor effects in digital programs also, but I think, like, I'm thinking of Jonathan Case, who did Little Monarchs, and I know he did all of that by hand, and then watercolored all of the color. And I don't remember if it was on separate layers still, I would think so. Interesting. At that point, like, but there's a lot, traditional artists, then they just use whiteout as they need to, or fix things in post. And I admire it. It's just not, I can't look that way anymore.
Well, and I think that's the fun part too of anytime there's any kind of book, is that, as an author, your name goes on the cover, but you're so cognizant of all the different people that had to have a hand in to make it be a book that's on that's on the shelf in the store. And totally. How has you had release week last week. Have you had a chance to be in classroom or talk to kids at all yet?
Yeah, so I had my release at bookstore in Portland. I had my release party, and then so I did get to talk to some kids there. But as far as being in the classroom, I have a handful of events planned, like classroom visits and school visits for this fall, but have just kind of started ramping up to that. And but that's exciting, because that is something I didn't get to do in 2020 when my debut came out, because everybody was at home.
Nobody got
there was no one to visit. So.
Because I'd be really curious, how will you have the opportunity to go into any of the areas that did get affected by either those fires or more recent ones?
I haven't so far. It's all been Portland mostly. And I did do a Vancouver school last fall or last spring. But I would be curious how that would be received when it's, much more personal to those students. But I mean, I'm open to that. I just have to get on my game with scheduling.
Yeah, no, that's a different no,
Yeah.
we won't go off into that part because
Right,
that's not
right.
bookmaking. So when you were talking about when you were thinking and doing your research on climate change, did you get to interact with any scientists? And when you were trying to
Yeah,
decide what kind of science was going to go in the book and that sort of thing.
that was mostly just Google research.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, me too.
yeah, I did do a lot of reading, and it would be, I think too, because it was 2020 I think it was still 2020 when I started the like writing process. So not that you couldn't have a phone call with someone, but
Yeah.
everything was just so like, yeah, it turned into mostly internet research, but
Yeah,
it would be interesting to see, like, I'm trying to think if I did have some people kind of just double check the science and make sure I wasn't, representing anything, but
there's a lot of good information out there
exactly
now
at this point, and that's
about this stuff specifically. So
yeah. And even kids are going to be learning about it in school too. So I think I was able to kind of also rely partly on the education that they would be getting there.
Yeah. That's always an interesting thing, especially with kids writing, is trying to think about, okay, what's their frame of reference? What do they already know?
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's been interesting because I have 5 and an 8-year-olds, and when I started writing the book, they were 2 and sorry, I have a 5 and an 8-year-old, and when I started, they were 2 and 5. So and they weren't old enough for the book when I started writing it, but now my son is 8. He's in the age range.
That's very cool.
So I'm curious, like, because my next book that I work on will be the first time I'm writing a book with kids, in that. I'm just curious, like, I mean, I haven't really gotten too far into it yet, but I'm just, how will that?
It's actually kind of helpful, I think.
Oh,
mine are all aging out, so it's like, well, shoot, now I gotta find some more kids.
Yeah, exactly. You need that test audience. Yeah.
So it sounds like you have at least one other project. Are you able to talk about it yet, or is it still something that you're?
Yeah, I think I've been kind of casually mentioning it. It hasn't been announced yet, but it's another middle grade graphic novel, and it's with the same publisher, Little Brown Ink, and it will be, let's see. I'm still like figuring out a lot of I'm still in the early scripting stage, so I don't even know 100% where it'll land, but let's just say it involves a haunted library, so it'll be a move back to more of the mystery adventure.
That's great.
After 3 years with Wildfires, it was time
to have a little fun do something again. Fun. Well,
I think there's still like some important issues in the book, but but
well, and I think actually there's very few kids books where there aren't, if that makes sense. Like, I don't read a whole lot of either middle grade or YA where there's not something important that's being talked about. It's just that it's like, how goofy is the story that's being used as the vehicle, but I think that's what I really honestly enjoy about reading kids books, is that there's almost always something deeper there. And kids are there for it. They're receptive, and they want, whether it's Diary of a Wimpy Kid or Holes, or it's there's the main storyline might have different levels of seriousness, but
there's still
going on,
you'll say so much within that story, which is the beauty of story. Like, that's why we tell stories. So
and I think that I think as adults we like that too, but I think for sure for kids, like, it's a neat thing to see them like take in a story and then pick up on other stuff that's that's along for the ride. So
Yeah.
do you have favorite graphic novelists that you follow, either middle grade as well, or just other people that you really like or admire or like to read?
Yeah. Oh man. I do,
I
like,
know I hit you up
where
with that
to
one without
begin?
warning you.
Oh, it's just there's so what's funny is like in the last, I guess maybe 15 years now, but for sure the last 10 years, the explosion of so many, like, not just quantity, but like really quality books for
Yes.
graphic
Yes.
novels
Yeah.
for all ages, YA, middle grade, early readers. Yeah, oh man,
It's
yeah,
okay.
where to begin? I'm just thinking of like, the most recent one, I did just read The Leak, which was,
Oh,
illustrated. Actually, I have that really quick. This one I finished, I think last night maybe. So this is fresh on my mind, and it's it's illustrated by Andrea Bell, who did the color for my book.
oh, neat.
Yeah, so I read it after the fact, and then yeah, it's Kate Reed Petty. And another like environmental adjacent graphic novel, and just really well told story, really like good balance.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
like we were talking about the importance of showing the complexity of an issue. But then, we love the Mr. Wolf's Class books. We
Yeah.
love,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna shout out my friends like Jonathan Hill's Tales of a Seventh Grade Lizard Boy.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
Oh yeah, that's great. And Jonathan would be a great guest. I mean, both of them would be great guests. Reggie is a new one by Jen de Oliveira, which is more of a like, it's middle grade, like early middle grade. And my kids love that one. And I mean, and
Is
when I
is
say
that
my
one?
kids love that one, I love these books too.
Yeah, I know
always like
it.
bad books with my kids. So
I know what Debbie is our buyer at the store, and she and I both are. I mean, we love all books, but yeah, we're definitely like very protective of our like
oh yeah,
kids book section.
yeah, yeah.
Read all the books.
There's too many good ones to
Is Reggie, who's the protagonist in the Reggie books?
Reggie.
But is it a person or is it an animal character?
A penguin.
A penguin. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I was like, I couldn't quite remember. So I have to look at those. Yeah, no, actually, we've been looking at our graphic novels because the section just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Oh, sure.
And bigger.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, we don't want to give any of them up.
Well, and they're not, there are some small ones, but like some of these are like,
no,
yeah,
they're all pretty good size. And I think that's, I mean, this is another subject we could touch on briefly, is just, in the past, graphic novels have gotten a little shade from teachers, and that's putting it mildly, of you can't read that as your free reading time because that's not a real book or whatever, and nonsense that happens. And I think that's lessening, and I'm glad to see that. But there's a lot of complexity in a graphic novel, and some of them are as long as a novel, so even though they don't have, the word count isn't going to be as high.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm also heartened to hear less and less of that pushback from teachers. I think if anything, teachers and librarians are the ones who are championing the graphic novel cause now, because they see like kids who they might not pick up a book, but then they get Dogman in their hands and they can't put it down, or exactly. And like I said, my son is 8, and he he had COVID virtual kindergarten with COVID.
So, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine having to have kindergarten virtually.
It was awful. And I think like the way that I just see it in person now, like the way that he has connected what he loves, the Cleopatra in Space and the Wings of Fire graphic novels, and like just he's up at night, like won't stop reading. And it's just like,
that's
like
great.
you didn't show any interest in reading until all of a sudden like the right books got in his hands. And so if that's what's gonna have him like spending time And
And I have a niece that
Mhm.
really struggles with reading, but she loves graphic novels. So,
Okay, yep.
but what I find fascinating about graphic novels is that I actually find them hard to read.
Oh, really?
Like I'm the
Yeah,
opposite. I'm like, give me a book any day,
yeah,
because, and I love them. I love them. I think they're
right.
beautiful. I love the different styles of illustration. I love the
Yeah,
story. So it's
yeah,
not liking them, but just as a way to take in information, I actually find them
that's
way
really,
harder.
yeah,
So I'm actually admire the kids who can just like devour these graphic novels, because I'm like,
yeah,
for me, there's so much information on the page, and I'm just like, whoa, give me like the black and white letters.
right. Yeah, no, it is.
So,
And there's especially because like they have their own visual language, and there's
yeah,
things,
yes,
coming in from, from manga and other cultures that have made their way into, or I
yeah,
mean, and kids
yeah,
just love reading manga, but it's just like, I don't even know, like, I don't know what these symbols mean, and you have to learn, you're learning
yes,
another
yeah,
language, or just how quickly they
yeah,
can switch when they do read manga and it's from right to left instead of left to
yes,
right. And
yeah,
my kids
yeah.
picked up on that instantly, and I was like, okay, wait, no, because I didn't read that
I'm still
and
now, okay, I know I have to go this way.
exactly, like,
Which way?
okay,
I think
trace
I
the
actually had to ask somebody, okay, okay, I know I go back, what to us seems like back to front,
right,
but
right,
then how do you read it? Then what
yeah,
order is it
yeah.
in?
Right, it's just learning a new way to do it, and kids just are so much quicker at new
Yes, yeah.
information. So
Well, and I think it's been interesting to see studies come out that talk about the fact that graphic novels are just a whole different style of taking in information. Like
Mhm.
in a book, you're just looking at the symbols on a page, but in a graphic novel, you have to say, these symbols like connect to this picture, and this person's expression is telling me something
Right,
in addition to the words telling me something.
yeah.
And
Have
yeah,
you read the Scott McCloud books, Understanding Comics? And there's a
I
series.
have not, but
Oh,
I'm
okay.
writing that down now.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's just it's told as a comic, so you'll have to get past get past that, or commit to that. But
Yeah.
what he breaks down like so many of the elements that make what our brain does to be able to recognize, like, these two dots look nothing like eyes, but we know that they're eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, from now on in the story, we'll read them as eyes, but it happens instantly if you're doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so for cartoonists and illustrators, like, you have to really be paying attention to some of that stuff, and
Yeah. Yeah.
ongoing challenge, but
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Well, I'm just glad to see it. Like I said, I'm glad to see it take off, and I'm glad to see it be more accepted. We're seeing a lot more schools like include graphic novels in their school
yeah,
library orders and that kind
that's
of thing.
awesome.
So
Yeah,
that's been really good to see. So
now they just the publishers need to keep up and keep
yes.
take a lot of work.
I know.
So it's just they have to
No,
plan.
and we need more shelves at the bookstore is what
Yeah,
really
right.
yes. Or
Right.
get tall. We need to get like tall ladders so we can put stuff way
Yeah,
up high.
yeah. Slide
There's
down.
no liability problem there. So
Uh,
you've got one book that you're working on now. Do you have an idea of when that might be coming out? Like
um,
rough ballpark?
roughly, I think it was like 2025 or 2026.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
yeah,
you're out a
it'll
bit.
be a while out,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I always like to, in the meantime, I like to tuck in little side projects, and
Oh,
uh,
cool.
yeah, so we'll see.
Do you do other stuff besides the graphic novels? Like, do you have other like visual art outlets that you have?
I mean, it's mostly comics. So during COVID, it turned into like a 300-page side project, but it was a graphic novel. I mean, it was on the internet, but it was like COVID in space in the future, kind of just for me. Like, it was for
Yeah,
fun, and then
yeah.
I got carried away and people were reading it. So other than that, like, I used to paint, and I think someday it would be fun to get back into that. And I do enjoy writing without drawing sometimes too. Like, that
Yeah,
feels like a
yeah.
luxury to just be able to just write. So, and yeah, my kids are just now both in school full time, so I've got time again, so.
Yay!
But I'm gonna do some stuff.
Yeah,
I get up to something.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us. I'm just gonna look over at the. Oh, yep. Let's see. Oh, okay. So Andy is asking if a color story or like grouping of various colors is used when coloring comics.
If a color, yeah, I mean, that probably just depends on each individual project, but that'd probably be maybe a better, I mean, I definitely sent like my idea of a color story, but it
Yeah.
was just like,
So you definitely had something in.
I had like
a look
30
in mind.
colors that I was like,
Yeah.
this one and this one and this one, because I thought they looked nice together. And I think, as far as I know, I think she took that into account.
Yeah,
It wasn't like, wait a second, when I finally saw the colored artwork, it all felt
Okay.
right. So,
Good.
yeah, I think,
And that was from Florida, by the way. Hello.
oh.
That's a very long ways away. I'm glad that you came. So I don't see any others, so we can close up for the night, but I
Okay.
just want to let everybody know I've moved my screen and now it looks like I'm looking off into the distance. There we go. I realize if I put it right under the camera that it looks like I'm
that's
actually
always
looking.
the weird
Yeah,
eye
because if
contact.
I put it off to the side, then it looks like I'm
I
looking
know.
that
I can't believe they
way.
haven't just solved that problem for webcam.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
know. It should just follow your eyes or something. This excuse me. We have, I'm trying to think of events coming up. The Cozy Mystery Book Club is on the 22nd this month. Oh, excuse me. Normally it's the second Tuesday, and we'll go back to that in October, but for various reasons this month it's Friday the 22nd at 2:00. So you still have a chance to pick up your book and join us. Oh my goodness. All right, I'm glad I made it all the way through. Didn't start that till the end. And then we do have Vintage Books Live next week with Nancy Henry and Bruce Campbell about their book, This Rough Magic, about living on the Columbia Slough. So that will be fun. Thank you so much, Breena, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Fun.
And I hope you have a good night.
You too.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.